So if anybody is on the call that isn't a dues paying member and is represented by NFFE, you got to be already represented by NFFE in a bargaining unit. But if you are and aren't a member yet, you can click on that electronic 1187 link and fill it out and become a member right now. You can do the whole thing electronically. If you're on this call, I think you already know the value of the union. And so, it's time to join. We need you on the team. We're all in this together, and we'd like to have you as members. I also want to thank all of our leaders on this call and all across the country, our council, local officers, stewards, all the NFFE leaders out there. You're the ones that really make what we do happen, and you're out there, interacting with our members and making it happen every single day, providing that incredible representation. You guys are the key to it all. So thank you all for your leadership. So, obviously, what's happening with this Trump administration, we're all feeling threatened. It's been, one hell of a month. But I do want to say that I'm so incredibly proud of all the work that is being done across the country. Throughout the union, our leaders are answering the call and rising to the occasion during these really difficult times. I am so proud of the bravery that is being shown by so many of our leaders out there, again, at all levels of the organization. We are out there educating the public about the amazing work that federal employees are doing every day. We have seen rallies pop up all over the country. We are seeing NFFE members on TV, in print media, again, on radio from all corners of the country. And we are seeing a steady presence of our folks on social media out there defending federal employees and kind of smacking down the anti-federal employee propaganda that is being put out there. It's being put out there by the administration, by Elon Musk, by Doge, by some, right-leaning media outlets and members of Congress and others. And so we have a very big job to do to set the record straight about the incredible work that federal employees do. And we have just been doing that to an unprecedented degree. And so we should all be proud of that. I am just ecstatic about how our members have responded and answered that call. We are blowing up phone lines and email boxes of members of Congress. That to me is really amazing and special. They're getting something like 6,000 calls per day about what's happening to the federal workforce and resisting these Doge efforts. That is the biggest response that I have ever heard Congress getting. We want to keep that going. We are finally, in my view, getting through to members of Congress. And especially we're starting to see some inroads on the Republican side of the aisle, where they're starting to be a little bit resistance to the Doge effort, this so-called Department of Government Efficiency that Elon Musk is leading this effort. But it's been a complete disaster, and we can say at this point this has nothing to do with creating government efficiency. It is in fact doing the exact opposite. But we still have a tremendous amount of work to do. And we want every member of Congress to be hearing from us and really be having to choose between standing with Doge and Elon Musk and billionaires, or with the hardworking federal employees that live in their districts, tens of thousands of which have been laid off at this point. And so are they going to stand with the billionaires, or are they going to stand with the workers and their constituents that live in their districts? We want them to have to make that choice. And in order to do that, we need everybody to be involved in that effort. The threats are too serious. We can't afford to have anybody sitting on the sidelines. And it doesn't even matter who you voted for, or what your political leanings are. What is happening to the federal government is going to be terrible. It is already and will continue to be terrible for the American people, and it'll be devastating to federal employees everywhere. So So we need to continue to keep those calls going to Congress. We want to flood them with righteous indignation and anger. I mean, not to be mean, not to be, not to be nasty. It's best not. We want to have righteous indignation about what's going on and educate them and ultimately get corrective action because the president is not honoring his oath of office. The president, under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, he has a responsibility to faithfully execute the laws of this country, and he is not doing that. It is clear as day that virtually all of these Doge efforts are completely illegal. And when the president is doing things that are blatantly illegal, it's unconstitutional because he has this constitutional obligation to faithfully execute the laws of this country. And so it doesn't matter your political leanings or who you voted for. Everybody should be furious about the fact that the president is not honoring his oath of office and faithfully executing the laws of this country. And the second part of that is that Congress, thus far, has not really been a check on the excessive power of the executive. I mean, he's not honoring the laws of the country, and it is Congress that has to rein that in. And thus far, they have not done that, and that's a critical step that we need to take. But the opinion of what Doge is doing, it's being clear that it's a disaster. It's bad for our country. They have no plan and are just doing some really dangerous things. And so we need to call Congress. Here's the phone number. If you don't have it, write this down. Here's the phone number: 202-224-3121. Matt, if you could pop that in the message board there. I want, we need to keep a steady flow of phone calls and emails to our members of Congress. Our website also has some action alerts, but we need to keep those phone calls and emails going because we're starting to see the changes that we want, but we're far away from where we need to be on that, along those lines. But we're changing public opinion, and all the work that everybody's doing is making that happen, and that's really, really outstanding. So we're talking about what this administration has done so far, since this last call that we had in late January. The anti-federal employee actions are almost too many to mention. It has been, almost daily. It's been one thing or another that the Trump administration and this Doge thing have done. But I will touch on a couple of them. They put out this fork in the road email threatening workers to resign or be fired. This fork in the road effort email went out to over 2 million civilian federal employees. About 90, perhaps more, 90% of the federal workforce. And I just can't explain how irresponsible that is. It demonstrates that they have no plan. If in the end, about 65,000 federal employees, about 3% of the federal workforce, took the deferred resignation. We think they're going to get stiffed. It was a bad deal. We'll get into that more. But what a disaster it would be if huge groups of federal employees did accept that deal. We wouldn't be able to provide absolutely essential services. And so, this deferred resignation, it was very, very irresponsible, and shows that they don't care. They don't care about the services that people rely on, things that have to do with national security, things that have to do with public safety. They don't care. They don't have a plan. They are just hacking away at our federal government, and that's dangerous. Members of Congress need to know it. The public needs to know it, and truthfully, we're the best ones to educate people because we know best. We know what the federal government is like, and we got to refute the BS that is being put out there all the time. Regarding this deferred resignation, we advised our members, federal employees everywhere, that this was a bad deal and could not be enforced. Thankfully, we're very pleased that a lot of our members did not take that deferred resignation. 3% was nowhere near what the administration was expecting to get with that deferred resignation, and a threat that if you didn't accept it, that you were going to be riffed later on. But it was a bad deal, and we are getting reports at this point that a lot of people who tried to accept the deal, are getting stiffed. So, I mean, we predicted that, and then lo and behold, that's happening. We had one person at GSA who tried to accept it, and then they came back and gave him 2 weeks instead of pay through the end of September. That's just one example, but there was never a good faith offer to people. They were not on good legal authority to make those offers in that deferred resignation, and just another dirty trick used to intimidate folks and try to get people to sign away their rights to a good job. Um, so this deferred resignation offer didn't guarantee folks to be relieved of their duties. Any legitimate offer would have there would have been a guarantee to be relieved of their duties, and they did kind of in the media make it sound like it was a buyout. But when you actually read the deal, they could and likely would continue to make people work to the end of September. So that was no deal at all. And the administration has given no thought to the deferred resignation like I said, might meet for federal services. We saw problems with wildland firefighters being offered and then it being rescinded, air traffic controllers being offered it and then rescinded, VA suicide hotline workers, nuclear regulators, and the list goes on and on. But what an incredibly irresponsible thing it was to do that, and as well as a lot of the layoffs for a probationary period, for folks that are on their probationary period. Overall, we've seen about 100,000 folks that have either been laid off already or been bullied into a deferred resignation. Most recently, we've got this Saturday, there was an email from OPM sent to all federal workers, and the email was titled "What did you do last week?" Essentially, kind of like the movie Office Space, if you remember that. What would you say you do here? A really awful and bullying, condescending thing to be put out. The email asked for 5 bullet points, asking for what folks have accomplished in the past week. It went out at 11. It went out late in the day on Saturday and gave people until Monday evening at 11:59 by the end of the day on Monday to respond. The email had no explanation of what the information would be used for or why it was being requested. The email did not come from supervisors or anywhere in people's chain of command. And of course, concurrently, Elon Musk made a threat on X saying that the failure to respond to the email would be considered a resignation, which really put folks into an understandable state of panic in some cases or serious concern. It was great to see that there were several federal agencies that came out and said right away, do not respond. It was going to create all kinds of security concerns. The email came from an outside server, so it wasn't even appropriate for a lot of people to respond to that email. So it is another data point showing how irresponsible this entire Doge effort is. And again, people understand, and any kind of fair-minded person understands that this isn't being done properly. To not coordinate with the agencies is just irresponsible and bush league and unprofessional. And so it's helping us continue to make the case that what this Doge effort is not a good thing for our country. And I think that's pretty clear if anybody is open-minded enough to listen to the case that we're making. So NFFE believes that the email and the threat from Elon Musk were illegal. no probationary employees. They can only be removed for poor performance or misconduct if they're past their probationary period. That was spelled out in the Civil Service Reform Act. So what was being threatened by Elon Musk was not a legal thing to threaten. And so, again, adding to the bullying nature and the unprofessionalism of what was being done there. NFFE put out guidance about this. We put it out on Sunday, and then put out some, we tried to get some clarification by OPM, and put out some revised guidance on Monday. And I do want to thank Yvette, tremendously for kind of dropping everything that you were doing on the weekend to kind of really research that and come up with some very thoughtful and informative guidance so that people could, make a good informed decision about what to do. So I think somebody else, Yvette or possibly Amy, are going to be touching more on that subject. But ultimately, OPM reversed course and put out guidance late on Monday, just a few hours before the deadline for submitting those bullet points, and reverse course. We thought that was finally a little sanity, and we were very happy to see that. But just the fact that it happened doesn't change the impact that is happening on the workforce and just the wastefulness. I mean, to everybody stop doing your jobs and come up with some like BS talking points that nobody has any idea. I mean, there's not even anybody to read these things. They don't even have employees to actually read these things. So what are you doing these for? It's just a bullying tactic by Elon Musk, and it shows that there are no adults in the room over there in this administration, because they're just letting Elon Musk do these ridiculous things, and it hurts. It hurts federal employees, the functioning of our agencies, and ultimately the American people. And so what's going on here? This is nothing more than two billionaires bullying and trying to harass middle class workers into resigning their jobs, caring for veterans, keeping our military ready, protecting the American public, and countless other services that are critical to the American people, that they rely on. Let's keep in mind that these are middle class jobs. These are jobs that folks rely on to feed their families, and about 30% of all federal workers are veterans. So some people, they don't care at all about the impact on civil servants of these layoffs. But when you talk about it in terms of veterans, all of a sudden they do care very much. And for 100,000 people that have been laid off, there's 30,000 of those that are veterans, and that should be completely unacceptable, to everybody. But Musk and Trump are showing absolutely no shred of decency as they fire federal workers and bully others into quitting. Like I said, a total of 100,000 workers have been laid off or bullied into resignation, and those numbers are continuing to grow every day. It appears that there's a brand new news is breaking right now about agencies being told to come up with further RIF plans. So there's really truly no end in sight, and we need to stop this right away. But if you're firing people, if you're ruining people's lives, laying off 100,000 people and counting, any decent person would be contrite about that action. If you're laying folks off, you should feel bad about that. But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing Elon Musk going around gloating, waving a big chainsaw around and acting like he's some kind of a hero. He's no hero. His ego is out of control. And he's only got people cheering him on because they have misled people about the value of the work that federal employees do. But he's a bully, and people in this country don't like it when billionaires go around bullying people. I also want to point out some of the hypocrisy of Elon Musk, because he really is at the center of this. This man became the richest person in the world in industries that are paid for by the American people. Think about SpaceX, paid for by American taxpayers that fund all of those government contracts. Think about Tesla, a highly subsidized industry paid for by the American taxpayers. And he went out and sent a tweet that says people on federal programs are part of the, what was the term he used here? The parasite class. People on federal programs are part of the parasite class. When this guy made his fortune on federal programs that paid for by the American people. And there's 2.1 million veterans enrolled in VA programs that earn those benefits with their service to this country, and they're not parasites, they're heroes. There's 77% of people in Social Security right now. They rely on that Social Security or to keep them out of poverty. And that's just regular people. 77% rely on Social Security to be in poverty. And he's going to get out there and say that people on federal programs are part of the parasite class. We cannot allow this guy to continue to be driving the bus on the things that are happening. And because the worst part of it all is he's doing all of this thing to get another huge tax cut that benefits, almost all of the benefit is going to billionaires or people who are filthy rich, hundreds of millions of dollars type of thing. And and that's over $400 billion a year in tax relief, when that amount is bigger than the entire federal payroll put together. And so that is a major thing that just needs to be stopped. Last thing I'll say is these efforts have nothing to do with efficiency. The best people in federal government are being run out of the federal government, which is, in the end, I mean, who would want to work for the federal government if you could be fired just for doing your job, or if you didn't vote for the right person, or have the wrong bumper sticker on your car, or have respect for any number of issues that are important to people. They're running out the best and brightest in government, and that makes us less efficient, not more. They've actually fired a lot of probationary employees, that are only probationary because they were promoted. So literally the people who are being promoted because they've been such good employees are the people being laid off. And finally, these actions taken collectively are creating a toxic work environment that absolutely kills inefficiency. So any notion, and they're out there being like, oh, how could these federal employees not be able to respond to a simple email, whatever? They're out there gaslighting people, spreading lies, and pretending that this is some good effort to some good faith effort to reduce spending or something, when it is clear that they're not trying to making our government more efficient by the actions that they are taking. So we got to be out there continuing to set those records straight. So with that, I am now going to turn it over to Yvette.
Thanks, Randy. Hi, everybody. I'm Yvette Piascek, General Counsel here at NFFE. Hopefully most of you were on our last call where I pretty much talked about how this is going to be a really long, drawn-out battle. At least from our perspective, most of the battles are going to be won at your local level. And I hope you're all fired up and ready to go and ready to take action on your level. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but first I wanted to talk about what our Office of General Counsel has been up to, because again, we're fighting this on multiple fronts. And with our office, we've joined 3 different lawsuits. The first one, we joined a nonprofit called Protect Democracy. And IAM and a couple other unions were also on that lawsuit, where we said DOJ should not have access to federal employee records housed at OPM. It was a little bit broader than that, but that was NFFE's primary interest in joining that lawsuit, was to make sure that we weren't dealing with basically another OPM data breach scenario that you all lived through not too long ago. We won our first big request in that case, which is a request for a temporary restraining order. The court granted it, and so currently those OPM records are enjoined from DOJ access. So we're very proud of that. The next step is going to be, a temporary restraining order is only temporary. So we have to go and make a motion for a preliminary injunction, which does the same thing as a temporary restraining order. That's the next thing. Chances are pretty good we'll get the the preliminary injunction as well. And then eventually we'll go to the merits on the case, and we feel strongly that we'll win on that one. The second lawsuit, we joined a coalition of unions to challenge generally this whole effort to dismantle the federal workforce. So we challenged the probationary terminations. We challenged the deferred resignation program. We said the executive order that is ordering agencies to start planning RIFs is illegal. Basically, it's violating the separation of powers of the U.S. Constitution. In that case, we lost our request for temporary restraining order on some bad case law that we saw was conceived in the first Trump administration. It's this channeling argument. So, we knew that was a risk, but we still wanted to file. Again, this is one of those situations where even though there's no great option, we're going to try all the options, because eventually we can load up the system enough where we can start to show that some of the options that we have might be futile, and ultimately the district court's really going to have to step up and overturn this bad channeling case law. So that case is still going to proceed on the merits. I think on the merits, it's still a strong case. We just didn't win the first battle, which was to get a temporary restraining order. The third lawsuit that we joined in with Democracy Forward, that's a nonprofit. That one also sought to protect your taxpayer records that Treasury houses. And this really isn't just limited to federal employees, but all American taxpayers' information we were seeking to protect. Several states also filed a similar lawsuit. 19 states attorneys general came together and filed a lawsuit in the Southern District of New York, a little bit before we filed ours. And thankfully, the judge in that state's case went ahead and granted the injunction. So Treasury records are not currently being accessed by DOJ. What the White House and the Treasury Department did in the last few days is apparently they entered into an MOU where they said that all the Treasury data that DOJ is going to have access to is anonymized. It's basically only anonymous information that's going to be provided. We, through our co-counsel at Democracy Forward, are trying to get a copy of that MOU. So we've requested a meet and confer with the agency to try and figure out exactly the contours of the extent of that protection. And then we'll reevaluate our case and decide whether we need to move for an additional layer of protection for those records. But at least for now, all American taxpayers can enjoy the New York judge's ruling that, there has to be some protection in place. So those are our three lawsuits. If you're keeping score, we got one for unions, one for the government, and to be determined on many, many others. So let's see. Okay. Probationary terminations. Let's talk about those. So unfortunately, thousands of our members have been terminated while on probation. A lot of people have asked what we should do, and this is where our locals are going to have to go, and councils are going to have to spring into action if they haven't already. My understanding is no one has filed a grievance yet. Maybe some individual employees have gone and filed MSPB cases on their own, but our advice over the last couple of weeks as we were putting our plan together has been sit tight. We're developing a plan. So here's the plan. The Forest Service was the first agency to really get hit with a significant amount of terminations while on probation. And I've been working very closely with the Forest Service Council and their litigation team to come up with a grievance. And so we are going to file this grievance. They've already sent out a message to all Forest Service employees saying, if you are terminated, please sign on to our grievance. We aren't filing individual grievances. NFFE just doesn't have the resources to take thousands and thousands of cases to arbitration or court. So we are filing one probationary termination grievance at every agency. We're starting with Forest Service. But other agencies can file a similar grievance to what we've developed at the Forest Service, and we're going to put a copy of that up on the website after this call, along with some other guidance that you can modify to your own liking. But I have one big request. If you are going to file a grievance based on this sample, can you run it by your BR, and your BR will be able to loop me in, and we can make sure that we are doing the right thing for your agency based on your contract. Every contract's different, so some of our contracts have specific exclusions for grievances over terminations while on probation. So we have a workaround for that. Basically, we are going to argue that this is really a violation of our RIF article, that these temporary probations equate to an overall RIF action, and therefore that should be our window around and in the door, so to speak, with these grievances. So check your CBA, work with your BR, but we are here to support you. We've got all the legal arguments already crafted, so it really should be an easy lift for you all in terms of drafting the grievance. The harder part is going to be finding who you want to list on the grievance. So this is a grievance that's basically going to be an equivalent of a class action. We don't have class actions in our grievance procedure, but we can file mass grievances. So what that means is we will file a grievance, but we have to individually name each employee who wants to be a part of it. So you're going to have to go out and talk to your members, your bargaining unit employees, and say, who wants to be a part of this? You're going to have to get some information from them baseline, like their letter terminating their probation, maybe they're 50. The Forest Service has already put together a really great tool to go and gather that information. It's basically just a survey. We can share that with you as well. But basically, we want to make sure that we aren't filing grievances on behalf of everybody, because every employee has a choice in this situation. Probationary terminations while on probation, you have the choice of forum. You can either go file a grievance with the union, you can go to the MSPB on your own, you can file an Office of Special Counsel complaint, you could go file an EEO complaint if you thought that discrimination was the motivating factor behind the action. But what we don't want to do is file a grievance that could eclipse an individual's right to go to MSPB. So that's why we're filing a grievance in this mass grievance context, where each employee that wants to be a part of it explicitly tells our leadership, yes, I want to be a part of it, and here's my information, please include me. So there's also no duty of fair representation with these cases. Those of you that have been at the harbor have probably got training on duty of fair representation. So we are going to ask every single employee who wants to be included in our grievance to join. Full stop. We want them to join. So we also will verify who's members, who's not, and the ask will be, made after. If we find there's a non-member included in our grievance, we will come follow up with them and ask them to join. But we definitely want to be servicing folks who see the value in the union. And if they don't, then they can go pursue their own MSPB complaint or go to the OSC. So those are the options. There's one more option that I'll highlight, but it's not one that we really recommend. There has been a lot of chatter on Reddit and elsewhere. There's some law firms that are exploring filing a class action through this independent law firm approach, and it could be most likely with MSPB. James and Hoffman is one of them. And then there's other law firms that are talking about going to OSC, filing quote unquote mass complaints. I have been in multiple conversations with those firms trying to figure out the contours of their claims. And at this time, NFFE is not recommending that our members go to a private law firm to join on one of these class actions. We may change our mind, but at this point, that's not a course of action that we think is your best bet. We want as many members to join our mass grievances as possible at this point. Now, there's some folks, especially people that are just organizing, like we've been filing petitions to unionize new groups, and those folks don't have the benefit of the contract yet. But we still want to help them, right? Same with non-bargaining unit employees that are friends of the union. So there's a pretty exciting thing I've been working on with AFL-CIO and the councils general, general councils of the other unions, AFGE, AFSCME. We've been working pretty closely together to try and set up a matching network where union members who can't file a grievance for some reason or another, or want to go to the MSPB on their own, or want to file an OSC complaint by themselves, can be matched with a lawyer who has received some training on how to do those in this context. We have a network of 200,000 lawyers. About half of them already practice in this area of law anyway, but the other half practice and all sorts of different things, including criminal law and that sort of thing. But we want to match our members with this group of volunteer lawyers. It won't be an official referral service. We're setting it up in a way that it's really just more of a matching service. But I'm recommending at this point that this program probably will take another 2 weeks to set up, just because the scale of it is so ginormous, and it's going to be open to any federal employee. But what I'm hoping is that employees that are really hell-bent on filing their own MSPB complaint can use this full 30 days. So you have 30 days from the time that you were notified of your personnel action before you have to file with the MSPB. So, and our system hopefully will be up and running. Our matching system will be up and running before that 30 days expires for any employee. So what we're hoping is that people can hold their horses, just wait until we get this program set up. If we can get the program set up before that 30-day period, great. Then you could be matched with an attorney and you could proceed with your own case in good hands. And that's a benefit of union membership. But if you are coming up on the 30 days, we don't want your claim to expire. We need to protect your claim. So we are going to put something up on the website to help employees who are coming up on that deadline that might not yet have a lawyer but want to plug into our matching program with AFL-CIO. So we'll have a sample so people can be sure that their claim is protected. I think the universe of our members that are going to want to use the matching program is potentially very small, because our grievances are really so favorable. And this is what I mean by that. Our grievances are going to cover everything that you can raise before the MSPB. They're going to include everything that you could challenge in an OSC complaint. They're going to include all of the articles in our master agreements, collective bargaining agreements that were violated. It's like an all-in-one in that we're achieving all of these things. Whereas if you go in these other forums, sometimes you're limited with what you can actually allege there. So that's why everybody gets to choose, but we're strongly encouraging people to choose the grievance. And again, that sample is going to be up on the website, and I want you all to work closely with your BRs and possibly me to make sure we get these teed up correctly. All right, so then I wanted to talk to you about OSC. So how many of you saw in the news in the last couple, has it been a couple days? Maybe it's been one day. I don't know. Time is not real to me anymore. But basically OSC, Office of Special Counsel. So, when the terminations first came about, I was in conversation with several of the other union general counsels about what our plan was going to be. And we coordinated with Democracy Forward and the Alden Group and a couple other unions, where we would file basically test cases with the Office of Special Counsel. We would file individual OSC complaints with the goal that the current special counsel could scoop those up and rule in a way that would be favorable to all employees. The upshot is special counsel did find that for 6 employees, he did find that there were prohibited personnel practices committed and requested a stay from the MSPB. and the MSPB already ruled, came out late last night, but basically said, yes, prohibited personnel practices have likely occurred here. And so these 6 employees need to be returned back to their jobs immediately. We also structured the request in a way, it was the Alden Group's, that's the law firm whose small group got granted. That's the group of 6. But we still have all of these other test case OSC complaints in the hopper waiting to be ruled on. In addition, we've got a full court press to get the MSPB to expand their ruling to include all probationary employees, not just the individuals that were named on the complaint. It's a bit of a Hail Mary because that hasn't been done before, but we feel like there have never been terminations on this scale across the government before. So if there's ever a time for unprecedented MSPB decision, it's to meet the moment of the unprecedented termination on probation that this administration has been embracing. So we'll watch that, but for now, if nothing else, what we have is a ruling from the special counsel and the MSPB. These are the independent agencies responsible for making these types of decisions, and they've both sided with labor and our lawyers to say that these probationary terminations were illegal. And so it's a great, it's not quite precedent, but it's a great finding for us to rely on, especially as we go to arbitration on all of our individual grievances or agency specific grievances. We're going to make that argument. So that's exciting. Now, some people have said, do we need to go file with OSC now? Does everybody need to run there and file with OSC? No. No, because remember this special counsel was fired a couple of weeks ago and then he sued and then the court put him back to work. He could be fired again, especially now that he's made this ruling in the last 48 hours. The Supreme Court was asked to decide whether his firing was appropriate a couple of days ago, and they demurred. They said, no, we're not interested in ruling on that now. So he's still in his position, but it could be at any moment he could lose his position again, and we're concerned about rifts that you all are experiencing could be, you know, the same thing that the staff at the Office of Special Counsel could be subjected to. So it's just too risky for our opinion at this point, it's too risky to rush to file with OSC. We still can make all of the arguments in the grievance procedure, and we have more control over the process through the grievance procedure because all we need to do is get an arbitrator. And you know, MSPB is still the same concern. I don't refer people to go to MSPB right away. I would still rather people go through our grievance process because MSPB could also be deadlocked really soon. Their staff could be riffed, their members could be fired again. So there's no great option here, but certainly the grievance option is our best option in our view. So let's see. I wanted to talk about telework. Oh my gosh, the attacks keep coming. So just real quick on telework. We're going to put some examples up on the website too. For those of you that don't have a telework article or a remote work article already in your contract, you're going to want to put in a request to bargain and return to work as soon as possible if you haven't already. They're supposed to bargain the change before they implement. If your contract or your CBA does have a telework or remote work article, then wait to see how they implement it and grieve it. I don't know of any agency quite yet that is at a position where you can grieve, but I'm here to help. If you're in that spot where you're ready to file a grievance, I think it should again be at the agency level, if at all possible, but that's going to vary by your local and your contract. So work with your BR, they can plug me in, and we can deal with that as it comes. I think from my knowledge of a lot of our CBAs, a Forest Service contract might be our best bet to win a grievance. We'll have to see, but it's going to be an uphill battle on that one too. I'll just be honest. It's going to be difficult to win back telework under the current state of the law. But we'll fight nonetheless, right? We have to fight. We have to pursue something, even if the shots are long. And then what's next? Oh, what's next in the hit list? RIFs. A couple agencies have already issued RIF notices. We know they're planning to put out more. We're reviewing how these RIF notices have been put out at some other agencies so that we can be ready with our own action. The RIF process, if you have in your grievance procedure article, if you have the ability to file to challenge RIFs through your grievance procedure and it hasn't been specifically excluded, then the MSPB won't hear a RIF challenge. You can't go to MSPB if you could have filed a challenge to the RIF through your grievance procedure. So we're going to have to look at all of our grievance procedures and see if our grievance process is really the exclusive path for recourse for RIF employees. And with that in mind, I'm drafting a generic RIF grievance that we'll put up on the website, but it's really going to be very fact specific at your agency, how they implement the RIF that's going to drive the content of our grievances. So between now and the next time we talk, I hope all of you get into your contracts, read through your RIF articles, and get ready for what's coming up next. We also put out some guidance to employees to help individuals take action to protect themselves in the meantime. But from the union perspective, negotiate if you can. And if you're covered already, then we'll be watching to make sure that they implement in accordance with our agreement. We aren't going to file individual grievances for individual members on any of these actions. Again, we want to use our limited resources wisely and put things into mass grievances as much as possible. And where we can't put it into a mass grievance, we're going to take full advantage of that AFL-CIO matching program. So stay tuned on that. We're working really hard to get that up and running as soon as possible. And I will be sure that you all get information about that as soon as it's live. The what did you do last week email, you saw our guidance on that. I mean, what a colossal jerk around. I'm really sorry that everybody had to wring your hands over that. But I guess we got a good result from it. And I think it's all in part because, all of you made your voices loud and clear that it was ridiculous. And, I think we need to all collectively look at this type of thing as a lesson learned. Like, we know their game. They're going to keep trying to manipulate us or intimidate us. So do your best. I know it's hard, but do your best to try and stay calm and know that we've got a lot of tools here and we're sure as hell going to use every single one of them to protect you. And when people, come to you with questions, project that sense of confidence, because I think you all can go to sleep at night knowing the union's got a lot of ammunition in this fight, and we certainly are using every box we've got laying around. There's a cabinet meeting happening right now, and there's probably more executive orders being signed right now, and some of them might impact us. I don't know, because I've been talking for 20 minutes, but as soon as we have more executive orders that come out that impact you, we'll be on it. We'll be developing guidance and reacting accordingly. So with that, thank you for listening to my, we've got a lot going on, so I had a lot to say, but I will pass it now to Steve Lenkart to speak for a few moments.
Real quick before we get to Steve, I just want to let everyone know I'm going to be putting in the number for the Capitol Switchboard and our letter writing campaign, so you can contact your representatives in Congress. Those are both in the chat right now. And with that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, and hello, everyone. We are working with those in Congress and a massive coalition of private and quasi-government stakeholders on messaging. Our messaging includes very high-level talking points, such as the president is not above the law. The law of the Congress of the United States is not applied to 99.99% of the people's 100%. And of course, this administration is relying on an expansion of the July 1st, 2024 SCOTUS Supreme Court decision that gave Trump some absolute immunity, which, you could translate that straight to absolute authority. I don't think they're going to be as successful as they think they're going to be when round two happens in the Supreme Court. But this is the route they're headed in now, which is why they feel as though they can violate federal law and regulation and constitutional values as well too, to do the things that they're doing. So our messaging includes, to a lot of people who are these actors within the government, that some of these things are illegal, some of them are criminal, and Trump can't pardon everyone. And if you think you're breaking federal law under the blanket of Trump pardoning you, you could be surprised later on. You have people as young as 19 years old crafting some of these emails, and some of these emails look like they're crafted by a 19-year-old. I imagine they don't have in their plans going to prison when they're 23, 24, 25 years old. So our message to them is, before you do something illegal, before you throw your life away, think about what you're doing. You better make sure that you're being sold an honest bill of goods. So our messaging includes, and also that, federal workers are Americans. There's 2.3 million families right now that aren't spending like they were a few months ago. There's thousands upon thousands of federal families that have been terminated from a source of their income. So they're not going to be spending. And this is going to hit towns, states, congressional districts across the country pretty hard. And normally economic activity lags a quarter behind. I think we've already seen, just from consumer confidence numbers, we've already seen an impact. So it's happening now. It's not going to happen over the summertime or, later in the year. It's happening now. And that's what we're trying to tell Republicans too. You better get ahead of this on your messaging, because in 2 years now, you may be surprised and looking for a job yourself. So in addition to this messaging, of course, we're working on bills. It's a very complex, multi-leveled structure of bills that we're working on that I really don't want to go into detail here because there's over 1,000 people listening and God knows who's on this call. But we're looking for any opportunity to leverage what we have to shut down the things that the Trump administration is doing illegally and unethically and so forth. And of course, we have our regular bills in Congress too. We have our workforce bills, and the VA Accountability Act is getting introduced this week. So next week, we're going to be on the Hill talking to the VA committees to make sure that doesn't go anywhere, and cuts to agencies, cuts to salaries and benefits, the stuff that we do every single year, firefighter legislation and so forth. So we're still also engaging in that. So what you can do is, please, if you haven't gone to NFFE.org, go to the member update box, click on it, spend some time on that page, read everything on that page, go from top to bottom, read everything on that page. If there's a letter you can send a letter. If there's resources on there, read the resources. You will feel better after you read these resources. You'll feel more empowered, and as Yvette said, you may actually get some sleep. In addition to that, please do tell everyone to join a union. And if you know of people, we're always looking for stories. The media is always looking for stories. We probably get 30, 40 media inquiries a day. We normally get about 5 or 6 a week. They're always looking to talk to real feds, current and former or terminated. If you have stories that people don't mind going into the press, do send an email with the story to your BRs, or send them to someone at headquarters, and we're collecting those stories, and we'll use those stories. So with that, I'll turn it back to Randy, I believe.
Yeah, we can. We're gonna open the floor up just for a few questions. We're running out of time here, but before we open to questions, just wanted to reiterate that the link to join NFFE is NFFE1187.org, and I just entered that in the chat. So if you're a non-dues paying member and you'd like to join us in this fight and provide us resources that we can use to protect federal workers, please do consider joining as a dues paying member. We have a few hands up in the chat box here. I'm going to go to Donald Hassett first. If you have a question, please go ahead.
So what do we think is going to happen long term with the government? Are we going to be safe in our jobs, or should we start looking for other jobs? Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, not an easy question to answer. I feel good that there's a honeymoon phase going right now with this administration, that it's going to start drying up relatively soon. I think there's, from legal issues, the courts, from legislative issues to economic issues. I think this tide is going to reverse. I don't know how quickly it's going to reverse. So I would encourage people to stick it out as long as you possibly can. I do believe we're going to get to the other end of this. It may be a little bit of painful between here and there, but I think we are going to get to a point where we'll get to, something back to normal.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
We
You
really
bet.
do need everybody to hold the line, because I mean, think about the experience, the expertise, the knowledge that we would lose if we were really truly believing that we couldn't survive this fight. So please stay in your jobs, get more involved with the union, know your rights. And we have your back. We are going to fight like hell so that these threats don't actually come to pass.
Yeah, and I would add that they were only about 5% of the federal workforce either laid off or deferred resignation, and we're already starting to see some significant um, gaps in the services that these agencies provide. So they have, drastically underestimated how important the work that federal employees do. They could never get if they got anywhere near 75% of the federal workforce, which is what the Doge goal was stated as, there would be a complete revolt in this country because none of the services would work. And so, they're going to continue to push for that, it seems. But they're also going to be getting a wake up call concurrently. And we want obviously that wake up call to come as quickly as possible. And so the more we can do to tell our story, speak truth to power, and resist, the better off we are, and the fewer layoffs we'll have ultimately. Next question.
Your next question, we'll go to initials ACP. If you're still here and have a question, please go ahead. You may be on mute. All right, we'll move on to the next question then. Let's see. Do we have Joan?
Did you say Joan?
I did, yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Question was, what's the OPM? Can you give us some clarity on the OPM guidance on severance pay? That, I looked at the math, and would that be available to people that are eligible for retirement? It looked to me like it was only available to people who are not retirement eligible.
So the OPM website, you could just Google to get the severance pay calculator, and you can read up all about it there. It also would depend on how our CBAs are written, but most of the severance pay, I believe, is tied directly to RIFs. Early retirement, like VERA and VSIP, those are separate. And those are independently negotiable topics. But I do not believe that retirement will entitle anyone to the severance pay under the current law.
So if I accepted the severance pay, it would undercut my retirement, or I wouldn't be eligible, period, correct?
It depends. So if you want to talk to your local about the specific offer that you've been given, and what the specific agency policies are around that, and if the union has negotiated anything along with the OPM guidance, then that could give you your answer. I'm sorry, I can't give you a straight up answer here.
Yeah, it's kind of clear as mud. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for the question, Joan. At this time, we're going to have to wrap up our question and answer. I'm sorry we didn't get to more questions. If you do have questions, you can send them to me. My email is mdorsey@neffe.org. That's mdorsey@neffe.org. And I'll turn it over to Randy for some closing comments.
Thank you for all you do, everyone. Really appreciate everybody being on the call. Talk to you soon.